It's the Wild West around here today, and we're not even just talking about the weather. A sheriff sued for setting his own rules for people here illegally. Colorado's largest herd of wild horses is in real trouble. The government's considering an unpopular solution. Not even Colorado's famous peaches are safe. They're trying to stop an epidemic from stealing the harvest. Look at what's lurking in the waters of Wash Park and the search for a stolen Smokey on this Wild West edition of Next. Head for higher ground, Manitou Springs. Hundreds of people in the lowest lying parts of that town near Colorado's most famous climb are being told to do just that tonight, to get up above the potential danger areas for flash flooding. Emergency alerts went out to 450 homes in Manitou. People are gathering at a church until it's safe to go home. Same intense storms stopped every single flight in and out of DIA for a short time this afternoon. Jay Gasner caught what looks like a lightning strike straight to the tail of a southwest plane. There could be weather delays throughout the night. And a piece of Colorado was on the move near Bailey today, a mudslide that closed Highway 285 for a bit of time. No real damage. This happened next to the highway and also a Park County Sheriff's substation where they tell us a retaining wall did its job.
We've been waiting all summer for weather like this. Rain, cooler temperatures, but too much of a good thing for many areas today. Radar indicates a steady plume of moisture coming in from the southwest, interacting with a front dropping south. Temperatures today in the 70s. Lovely weather for this time of year. Something we haven't seen in 3 weeks. But the rain, too much, too heavy. Rotating storms producing flash flooding in the foothill areas around Bailey, down around Cripple Creek, Manitou Springs, and Colorado Springs. We had a tornado warning posted for Colorado Springs earlier and one for Pueblo due to rotating storms that did not produce funnels or a tornado. But the threat for heavy rain and flooding continues tonight across areas that have seen 1 to 2 inches of rain already and more coming. The area in blue is a severe thunderstorm watch that goes out through 7 o'clock. Denver not included, but flash flood watch areas may include portions of eastern Colorado well into the night, as well as northern New Mexico. Tomorrow's going to be the warmest, driest day of the week, and then a return to cooler weather and a chance for beneficial rain for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But tonight, yep, we're not done with the rain just yet. Be on the lookout for more heavy rain, thunder, and lightning. Skies clear late. There'll be some areas of patchy fog. Tomorrow, a dry day for the most part, and then showers back in the forecast with temperatures below average for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, heading into a rather cool weekend, Kyle.
All right, Kathy, thank you. Of course, all this Wild West weather is only intimidating if you have not faced it before. Allison Bush's windshield got wasted by hail last year. This year, though, provided picture proof with the hashtag #HeyNext that she is ready for this round. Just because it is July and there is no air conditioning at the state capitol does not mean it can't get chilly in there. You should have seen the stares being tossed between state legislators in a meeting today over paying for state improvement projects. And there was also plenty of shade thrown in the direction of Walker Stapleton, the candidate for governor who was not in the room. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
These are snapshots of some of the repairs needed at state-owned facilities, new security systems at 4 youth detention facilities, 2 roof replacements at Adams State College, and new chillers for San Carlos Prison, where the most severe mentally ill prisoners are held. So what does all that have to do with this?
Why is the state treasurer not here? What does he have going on that is more important than this transaction? I'm the one with the details, and I'm the one that's been working on this. I'm the one that volunteered to be here today.
That is not Treasurer Walker Stapleton. It's his second in command, Ryan Parcell. Democrats in this committee wanted Stapleton to show up to explain why the funding mechanism for these projects won't be in place until late September instead of earlier this month.
What I'm hoping we're not doing here is making this a political football for no apparent reason.
Well, football season is around the corner, and so is the gubernatorial election. Is Stapleton really responsible for a costly delay? In a nutshell, the Treasurer's office is responsible for issuing certificates of participation, essentially selling state-owned buildings to investors to fund the repair projects. Then the state buys those buildings back through lease payments. There is now a lawsuit challenging the 2017 law that put that process into place. With that lawsuit not in front of a judge until October, Parcell said the Treasurer's office was first told to wait, then got new legal advice to move forward with the funding. Another one of those projects waiting for that funding is widening I-25 between Castle Rock and Monument.
Based on the communication that we've received from CDOT, the timeline that we have will not interrupt with with any construction project timing.
2 questions unanswered today: how many of the projects are delayed, and will any of them cost more because the funding won't be there until the fall? Hey, it's raining, the Rockies are off. We had to give you some inside baseball. We're going to keep an eye on these projects and the funding. Clearly, the later the projects begin, the more construction probably costs. But Kyle, legally, the treasurer has between now and June to initiate this COP process, but clearly, the earlier, likely you save some money.
I actually think it's sweet. The legislative session is over, but they still get together to fight with each other. You know? I mean, it's strong bonds. All right. Thank you, Marshall. There is good news out of the scene of the worst of this weekend's headlines. The person who could not be found after the apartment fire that killed 2 people in Westminster, that person has been located safe. We've also learned that complex does not have fire sprinklers, and that is legal because fire codes did not require a sprinkler system when those apartments were built back in the 70s. That era of construction also means asbestos, and that is an ongoing concern that we're watching for people who live nearby. The man accused of driving a tractor on a chase through downtown Denver Friday night specializes in bad decisions, or so it would seem from his extensive criminal history. Guy's on parole already, so that John Deere jaunt through town could land him back in prison. Thomas Bush is his name, B-U-S-C-H, like the beer people, not Bush like the president. Before the night that police say Bush stole a Denver water tractor for his joyride through town, Bush had been busted for burglary and domestic violence and assault on a police officer. And speaking of that, the 2 officers injured when that slow chase came to a fast end, they are both fine. Lakewood police are looking at Bush as their guy in a car theft earlier in the day, and investigators think he might have been involved in another crash in Denver before this. All on Thomas Bush's very busy Friday night. The line, "There's a new sheriff in town," calls to mind an Old West scene. New lawman arrives and turns chaos into calm. New sheriffs in town in Colorado have actually done the opposite, creating chaos where there was calm and where there was agreement on how sheriffs would handle people wanted for deportation. 4 years ago, every sheriff in our state agreed that the law was clear. Unless federal immigration agents got a signed order from a judge, county sheriffs would no longer just keep somebody in jail as a favor to the feds. Now some newly elected sheriffs have decided to do it their own way. A judge ruled against the El Paso County sheriff for holding people on ICE detainers. That was a couple months back. And today, the Teller County sheriff got sued by the ACLU for doing the same thing. I called down there today and asked just how the Teller County jail handles deportation hold requests. Their spokesman told me he couldn't tell me. A judge is going to expect a better answer than that when they're all in court in a couple of days. Colorado's largest herd of wild horses is struggling to find food and water in this drought year. Today, the Bureau of Land Management told me they are considering going in to remove some horses from that wild herd. Talking about the Sandwash Basin wild horse herd. They're west of Craig in far, far northwest Colorado. There are more than 700 horses there. That is 2 to 3 times the number that the feds think that the land can actually support. So the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, is allowing these volunteers to truck in water. They're using these water bins to try and draw the wild horses to better grazing areas. Horse activists who are sometimes at odds with the federal government are working together with them now, trying to keep these horses healthy as the decision is made about whether to remove some of that herd.
There's never been a drought like this in this area that I know of that has been so hard. We're going through a tough time right now. Droughts are hard, and sometimes you just can't plan for those things.
The Sandwash Basin horse herd is the only one of Colorado's 4 herds that's being considered for what the feds call an emergency gather. So some horses would be gathered, they'd be collected and offered up for adoption. Those that are not adopted would go to holding areas. There are tens of thousands of horses in these federal government holding areas. There are drought-related roundups of wild horses going on in several western states right now. And there's increased concern these days from horse advocates because the Trump administration has proposed allowing the slaughter of wild horses that are being held by the government. The concern on the western slope these days, in addition to the drought, is a fungus that is killing off the famous Palisade peaches. Katie Eastman toured a greenhouse where scientists hope they might have the solution.
The fate of Colorado's Palisade peaches is in the hands of researchers 294 miles away in Fort Collins. It's where Colorado State University grad student Stephen Miller and plant pathologist Jane Stewart are working to stop the spread of a disease.
I think we need to come up with a solution rapidly.
A 2015 CSU survey showed every peach orchard on the western slope has trees dying from the fungal disease Cytospora.
We really have high levels here that nobody else has really seen.
When the fungus gets into the trunk, it creates these wound-like patches called cankers. Jane and her colleagues came up with a quick fix by covering the infected trees with a latex paint mixture. But they don't have a long-term solution yet. That's where all of these trees come in.
So what we hope to find is varieties that don't have very large lesions, meaning that they're a little bit more tolerant or resistant to the pathogen.
In a couple weeks, Stephen will introduce the disease to 13 varieties of peach trees in hopes of finding some that can survive longer. And if they can't find a fix,
it could cause growers to switch to a different fruit.
Palisade apples just doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
Exactly.
For Next, I'm Katie Eastman.
The fungus, it's a pain in the economy as well. CSU's research indicates it has created $3 million in losses so far. So we no longer do that segment that you all loved, asking if the A-line train is working today. Seems petty, you know, it most of the time works. But hey, I'm a petty guy, and it's not working today. There are some issues at the Chambers Street crossings causing the A-line to leave Union Station at the top and bottom of the hour, so delayed schedules until further notice.
I come in here because they have a free soup kitchen almost every day of the week.
They'll soon serve somewhere else. The soup kitchen's new owner shares their faith, but isn't going to share the space. If only you can prevent forest fires, who was supposed to prevent Smokey from getting stolen? And I was unaware that this was lurking in the waters of Wash Park. I'm sure it's nothing to be concerned about. Next. Aurora's only soup kitchen that serves a daily hot meal offers so much more in terms of resources, and that's why the Queen of Peace Catholic Church likes to call the Friends of St. Anthony Center the Hospitality Center. The man who owned the building left it to Regis University, said he wanted it sold to pay for scholarships. Regis shares their faith, but they will not be sharing the space. Byron Reed has that story.
When you help out in a neighborhood for so many years, people tend to know who you are.
This is a very historic building. It's been here since 1899. It has been the police department, the fire department, the courthouse, and the jail.
And a name we can turn to when facing hard times.
We were started because the need was in this area, and that has not changed over 32 years.
Friends of St. Andrews started in this building in the 1980s.
This is a beef-based vegetable.
It runs with the help of 80 volunteers and serves about 30,000 people a year.
We are the only soup kitchen in the city of Aurora.
It was started by the parishioners of Queen of Peace Catholic Church to help with the need on Colfax.
I came here, I was homeless, and then I got off the streets. I remembered the soup kitchen here, and so I associated with it.
Our average is about 110 on up a day.
But now the kitchen is facing its own hard time after new ownership put the building up for sale.
It makes me sad because it's not about me, it's about our guests. You know, what will our guests do?
We would love to stay here. If we can't, if for any reason we can't, then we would like to move somewhere very close because, again, we're in the area where the need is.
In a building with its own history.
So there it is, reserved for patrol cars.
Of looking out for its neighbors.
Give them a nice warm meal, and this is their home.
For Next.
It's a blessing. It really is a blessing.
I'm Byron Reed.
Regis University told me today that they deeply respect the work that's done by the Hospitality Center, but they felt bound to honor their donors' wishes of what to do with his building and the proceeds. Somebody else needs to be reminded that is not how you Colorado. Seriously, who in the world steals an 8-foot Smokey the Bear cutout? This is the one at the Blue Mesa subdivision in Gunnison. It's been a sort of neighborhood mascot for the last 20 years. They'd just given him a fresh coat of paint, had Smokey looking all respectable for the annual HOA meeting when somebody took him. He's not light. He's 50 pounds or so, but somebody made off with Smokey. There is an actual police report filed. The sheriff tells us it's an open investigation. That indeed is an example of how not to Colorado. Keep an eye out, folks. Freshly painted 8-foot Smokey the Bear helps solve the crime. It's been 40 years since Colorado brought home the title she has in her hands tonight. A woman watches this get pulled out of the waters of Wash Park and asks next, is this normal? Colorado has a world champion soapbox derby winner for the first time since the 1970s. Meet your champ, Colorado, Allison Pankoff. She's from Parker, 18 years old. She's been racing like the rest of her family for 10 years now. She won the national title in the Rally Masters division of the All-American Soapbox Derby in Akron, Ohio. Took the title in the final race of her career. She's off to start her sophomore year at Colorado State University. First world champion soapbox derby racer from Colorado since 1972. So this is kind of scandalous. Somebody from Colorado won it in 1973, but they got disqualified because they used an illegal electromagnet in the car. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a bird that thinks that if it is fair for humans to watch birds, then birds should be able to watch us. Even if Shay Ellis tells us she was super creeped out to see the hawk peering through her skylight down into her bathroom in Littleton. Our next question comes from a viewer named Cassie. I was at Wash Park last week when I saw a guy reel in a massive fish from a pond there. Is this normal? Define normal, Cassie. So this is the photo that we sent to Denver Parks and Rec, and the wildlife program administrator says that is a common carp. Not necessarily common to find a carp in Wash Park, but that is a common carp. It's native to Western Asia and Eastern Europe. It does not belong here. It is an aquatic nuisance species. The guy tossed it back in the pond where it continues to be a nuisance. The city says the lakes at Wash Park are stocked each year by the state and by Colorado Parks and Wildlife for fishing. They are not stocked with carp. They're stocked with rainbow trout and bluegill and catfish and largemouth bass. But the carp tend to do well because, well, they're resilient and they're really tough to kill. There is a new weather forecaster in town. She is 10 years old and quite talented. You will meet her and we'll hear your feedback next. We're always scouting for talent around here. Never know when you might need to hire a 10-year-old weather forecaster. Colorado weather gets them interested young.
Hi, my name is Sydney, and today I'm reporting the big rainstorm behind us. It is July 22nd, 2018, and we have a big rainstorm behind us. We have very quick coming down rain with some hail the size of Dippin' Dots.
Hail the size of Dippin' Dots. I like that. Sydney apparently shares a wardrobe with Danielle Grant. A lot of neon pink. She's 10 years old. She's about to be in 5th grade, lives in Arvada. That's a proud Grandma Linda behind the camera. We finish with your feedback as always, and two of you point out that I made a grievous error tonight that I should have known better on. Laura High and Don S. both email in to say, Kyle, it is Smokey Bear, not Smokey the Bear. I did not intend to kick Mr. Bear when he was down, stolen from that HOA sign in Glenwood, so I'm sorry. Please be on the lookout for a missing 8-foot-tall Smokey Bear statue. Kate Sherman Snap, avid watcher of Next, points out that we reported on the second nuisance species in 2 weeks. You had that turtle at Wash Park last week that was a nuisance. Those are the pets that people turn loose, and then the red-eared turtles are everywhere, and now we have the carp. 2 nuisance species. Right behind Colorado's #1 nuisance species, humans. We will see you next time.